Hello noses. Here they are again. Matrixer with Shiva and Jonathan. So after this nice greeting by Fred or whatever his name is, Magister. Certainly Fred. Certainly Fred. Let's get to today's topic, and that's what we've all been waiting for. Astral travel? Yes, there were many inquiries. Make a video about out-of-body experience. And since we've been doing out-of-body experience for many years, we thought we could do it, yeah. Okay, back then for a quick synopsis of few people like that. What is an astral journey? Then we discuss what is the astral body and why do you have an astral body? And then what can the astral body actually do? And then we talk about the astral planes and how they are constructed. Then, of course, also in relation to the matrix, that the astral planes are also traps, but of course also a blessing, so to speak. Then about the fact that the astral body is coupled to the physical body. And we still talk about the mental body and the mental plane, which is also the plane of light where you go after death. Then we talk about the stages of detachment. Then of course we still have. So why is it that one so rarely remembers an out-of-body experience when one still travels astrally? Then there are the very important blockages. Why you cannot trigger an out-of-body experience. And of course very important for you techniques to trigger an out-of-body experience at all. So that's exactly what we want to talk about. We say no more and I will, on advice and much kind criticism, endeavor to speak slowly and clearly. But it's about time, isn't it? Well, let's get to our first topic. And what is an out-of-body experience anyway? An out-of-body experience is a journey that you undertake with your astral body. Tada. Okay, yes. What is there to tell? Let's get started. I would say, right? Yes. Okay, exactly. And of course to explain what an out-of-body experience is, of course, you would first have to understand what the astral body actually is and why you have an astral body. And the astral body is the electrical body. It is, so to speak, an electrical duplicate of the physical body in a much more subtle or immaterial way than the physical body. And each of us has it. Shiva too, me too, you too. And as soon as one gets to know the astral body, or when you deal with it, you notice that you can use it, that you can go on an out-of-body experience with it. You can also feel it just like that, if you want. By a slight electrical vibration. Yes, the astral body is also much more translucent. Well, there are so many horror films with ghosts and such that are always presented in such a transparent way. And he really does look like that. But you can only see that if you are in the astral body yourself. In the realm of physical perception, one cannot usually perceive the astral body. Then he is invisible. So it's probably possible, so we see him more often. But usually not. No, usually he is invisible, and of course that is also the beauty of the fact that the astral body is invisible. Because you can of course go anywhere with it without being seen right away. Yes. You can also transform it. What else can you do with the astral body? One can fly. That would be our next point. What can you do with the astral body? Yes, right, we come to the next point. So he doesn't have to eat or drink. And with the astral body one can also penetrate matter. Walls, for example, or roofs, or other material things. You can just go through. Through windows. You don't have to open them anymore. And yes, you don't have to take suitcases with you if you fly to Egypt, for example. Or maybe to South America. You don't need a suitcase either. I don't have a problem with sunburn. I don't have to pay for a hotel stay either. It does have its advantages. The disadvantage, of course, is that the sun does not turn the astral body brown. You come back as white as you started. And yes, and you can't take postcards with you either. Also, no holiday photos or any holiday utensils or accessories that you find on the way. As you can see, it has advantages, but I would say that the benefit outweighs the astral body. But the astral body also has its limitations. Yes, you can't get out of the Earth matrix with the astral body, for example to fly to the moon. This is only possible in the mental body. But we'll get to that later. Yeah, so the astral body does not come through the grid. Usually not. If you try, you might even get an electric shock. Yes, that can happen. And then you end up back in your physical body. The out-of-body experience is then interrupted. Another advantage is that when you die, you simply switch to this astral body. When one sheds the physical body. And the problem is that you can't leave the Earth matrix with the astral body because it's directly coupled to the physical body. That means it is coupled to the physical body via code or frequencies, and therefore no matter how far you travel, you will not get away from here. Yes, one can therefore move on the surface of the Earth with the astral body. You can also go to the inner Earth. We are also making a video, I would say, about the inner Earth. It is also a very exciting topic, and you can perhaps also get into the intermediate area. You land there automatically when you detach from your body. Intermediate area, that is, there are also many deceased walking around. And of course it is possible to enter one or the other alternative reality with the astral body, but this also happens less frequently. Next we have the astral planes and how they are constructed. We have 4D, 5D to 9D. It all belongs to the astral. Monroe describes that with the focus. The Monroe has built up the focus levels or classified. Focus levels are states of consciousness that he classified, so to speak, from the physical realm to the astral realm and higher astral realms. And with Focus 21, that's where you start from being detached from your physical body and standing in your bedroom ready and excited to get started. And Focus 49 would be the exit from the matrix. Yes, so this goes up to further focus levels. And the highest focus level is Focus 49. There you come to a gigantic wall. And that wall is kind of like the end of the matrix in quotes, like in the movie Truman Show, although there aren't really ends there now. But that's the highest level you can reach. And there is a passage there. Before we come to the structure of the astral planes, one must first say that they were also created as astral planes. Created by the matrix. Just like the hologram of our Earth. And that the souls go to the astral plane after they have died and do not come out again. But we had already explained this in more detail in our map of the matrix, that these levels 3D to 9D also belong to the matrix. And let's start with the construction. So we have just described the 4D level with the astral body. So first the 3D level. Where we are, where we are, in everyday life, where we are also making this video right now. Then 4D comes the intermediate area, also called the twilight zone. You get there first when you die in the intermediate area. It's actually a pretty much the same copy of the 3D realm, but at a slightly higher frequency. And everything that happens in the 4D realm is very, very difficult to perceive in the 3D realm. You would have to refer to a medium or someone who can perceive the 4D level from the 3D area. But that's rarely the case. After that we have the 5D layer. This is also the level where the light source is. This is the level where you are sin after death, where everything is explained to you and how beautiful and great it all is. She is also very bright and radiates a lot of love. And that's exactly where you remember your life, where everything is shown to you. Then you get assigned a new life and a new image or personality. And exactly, you will then be sent back to Earth. Yes. There the new incarnation is discussed and determined. You choose your parents, your surroundings, the country, the city. So you really choose everything, in terms of content, and that's also where the ego is configured. That means what challenge you have in this incarnation, how to go further to remember your true self and so, how best to evolve. Now you could say yes, then we'll do what we used to be. Exactly. Yes. Paradisiacal states. I have to say, it really is like a vacation from the 3D level. Much more is possible there. There are also no constraints, no laws, no police. There is a positive anarchism there, I can almost say. And there are no more roads, because nobody needs cars anymore. Anyone can fly or teleport to where they want to go. So it really is such a small paradise, you have to say. Exactly, then we just show you the map, which is then build up the level. And there is practically everything from the chamber office and so on. Yes, of course you can only perceive the 5D level with the mental body, which means that the astral body is then discarded and you then switch to the mental body so that you can get to the 5D level. You can also switch to the mental body for a short time in between, of course also on astral journeys. You usually don't really notice that because the vibrations are somehow absent. And you cannot perceive the physical body when you are on a mental journey. And what else is there to say? But that only applies to the astral travelers. This means that they can change from the physical body to the astral body and then from the astral body to the mental body in order to reach the higher planes. But if someone has died, then of course he can no longer go back to the astral body or back to the physical body. If he managed to get to the mental level. Exactly. With the mental body you can travel much further, also to other planets that belong to the matrix system. Yes. On the 6th level, everything becomes much more subtle. You can no longer touch each other, but everything also becomes very, very much nicer. In terms of appearance, the higher astral planes are many times more beautiful. For example, so it still reminds of physical reality in a certain way. For example, I once had a hill in front of my house where I used to live and then I decided that I would visit the same hill on the higher astral planes and see what it looked like there. And there the hill really looked like in Lord of the Rings. So beautifully overgrown and all lush green with beautiful flowers. So really a pimped version of the everyday version. And the higher you get in these planes, the prettier nature becomes, the more beautiful, so everything becomes much richer, more numerous in terms of flowers and trees. And everything becomes much more loving, much more alive. And also the cities, they look like something out of a science fiction film with some domes or high towers, beautiful images that you are confronted with. So the higher you get, the more beautiful the worlds become, you could say. And what else can be said? That the higher you get in the astral planes, the ego is no longer noticeable at some point. It's so much reduced, it's actually practically gone. You can't feel it anymore. Yes, there is actually always bliss on the higher planes. Everyone is in a good mood because everyone has everything. You can get all kinds of food and drink there. Or you can also create your partner and maybe spend a nice night with them or something. So everyone has everything in abundance. So not as necessarily as on the physical plane. You always have to fight a bit to get what you want. You have to go to work or study, go shopping and all that. And all these things are lost up there. Exactly, those are now the nice sides of it. Now let's get to the not so nice sides, I would say. Namely, that the astral planes are still a trap that you can't get out of, because they belong to the matrix system. And of course you shouldn't demonize it, because if you learn out-of-body experience, you can of course also find out a lot about the matrix. For example, we were once mentally on a planet that also belongs to the matrix system, and there we experienced how someone just came back from a consciousness journey, i.e. as a point of consciousness, and went back into his body and told us about it. Like a matrix code in the physical DNA was installed. And that it can be removed at the micro level. We haven't quite figured out how to do it yet either. Yes, we are still researching how to remove this code. But yeah, it's also a blessing, so to speak, if you can and learn out-of-body experience and do it to find out how to leave the matrix or how to move better here. Or the matrix code throttles the human brain, so to speak. Some of you may know that, who were 15 or so, then bought their first scooter. The motor scooter was throttled to 25 kilometers per hour because it can actually do 50 kilometers per hour, and only when you turn 16 can you have your motor scooter dethrottled, and then you can also drive 50 kilometers per hour. And that's how it was done with our brain. Our brains have been throttled so we can't use everything that's actually possible. So that the consciousness simply remains nicely limited. Yes, exactly. And that's how it was all stamped into the DNA code. Or programmed, I would say. And of course, if you find a way to remove this code. It's a small DNA code, so it's a sequence that's built into the DNA. If you manage to remove it, you can kind of unthrottle your brain. We also suspect that it is related to being coupled to the collective consciousness. Correct, and that it is also connected to the astral body, which is then linked to the physical body. It's all somehow related to the matrix code in the DNA. But we're not that far along yet. But what we wanted to get at is that out-of-body experience can also be very useful to find out a lot. Definitely, because then you can go and see for yourself how everything is set up. And if everything we tell you is true. And the disadvantage is precisely that you can't get out of the astral planes, i.e. out of this closed system. Neither with the astral nor mentally or with any of the many bodies that we have. And that's the trap. It's really just a prettied up version of Earth so we can have a little vacation there after death to be sent back to. Unfortunately, you can't get into the free universe that way. No, it doesn't work that easily. So if you die and have gone into the light, then you have to go through the process of reincarnation or keep cycle and back to Earth. Exactly. You really only have the chance to leave the matrix in the intermediate area, in the astral body. So that's one of the many possibilities. Yes, one of the many possibilities. But we're going to make a video about it. What are the ways to leave the matrix? Go into that in a little more detail, so that each of you can choose which version suits you better. So, and in the next video we will of course continue with the topic of out-of-body experience and the techniques and the stages of detachment and the other topics. Exactly. In the second part, we continue. Take care.